What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Live With Matt channel, where I talk to you about how I'm living the American dream. So today I want to talk to you about the movie Encanto. If you haven't already seen the movie, you need to stop watching this video right now because there's probably going to be some spoilers. Not probably, there are going to be some spoilers. Specifically, I want to talk to you about one of the main characters, Abuela Alma Madrigal, and how, as I was watching the movie and reflecting back on it, I started to realize how a lot of the struggles and pains that she went through, decisions that she made, correlate so closely to my life. So let me give you a little bit of context first, just so we're all tracking the same thing. Alma and Pedro met when they were young at the Dia de las Velitas, Day of the Little Candles. That's a common celebration in Colombia. They fell in love, had triplets. As they were trying to raise their little baby triplets, violence came to their town. They escaped in hopes of finding a better life. In the process of escaping, they get chased down by, I believe it's soldiers that are attacking the town. Pedro, who is the father figure in this story, goes to stop them, to divert them, to try to save his family and everybody that escaped with them. But he loses his life in the process. When he dies, he had given this little candle to his wife, Alma. And as she held it, the candle got filled with this magical power. All of a sudden, mountains start growing up around them. And the candle gives them this power. This house gets built, and it's for the family. So now, Alma, Grandma Madrigal, is left with this candle that carries this power, but also this sense of responsibility. She becomes the de facto leader of this village that was just formed out of this magic. She didn't realize that at the beginning, but quickly realized that her descendants, once they hit 5 years old, would get some sort of gift, some sort of power. One of them had super strength, another one had the power to create flowers, one could hear really well, another one could transform into different people. So they all had these different powers. And what she did as a single mother with 3 kids, like I said, de facto leader of this village, what she did is she kind of took on this responsibility of having to protect the village, of having to guard them against the evils of the world. But by doing that, she put a lot of pressure on her descendants, especially because they had gifts, to also contribute, be of service, and help maintain this world, this peaceful world that they had. And the thing is, you got to remember, she came from a town that was marred in violence. She ran away from that. Now she's in this world, in this little cocoon, where her family, friends, the entire village is protected from all this. So she's got these visions of what life could be, how bad things can get. She remembers losing her husband, father of her 3 kids, and the pain that must have come with. And so she carries a lot of this, I guess, guilt for being the survivor, definitely a lot of pain and sadness from losing her husband. And not just her husband, but really losing her life outside of this little cocoon of a village that they've got. So she lost a lot. But she also wants to protect it because she doesn't want her family and friends to go through all that. So she puts all those pressures on her family. Now, at the end of the movie, her, her granddaughter, Maribel, helps her realize that she's done this to the family, that she's putting so much pressure on the family that a lot of them don't really know how, not that they don't know, but they can't live their own lives. They can't express themselves and be the people they want to be because they feel they have to fit this mold that the grandma has put out for them. And it was at that point, and again, this is at the end of the movie, it was at that point that I started to realize how much I saw of myself in her character. Because here's the thing. I was born in Colombia, South America, moved to the States when I was almost 10 years old. And so when I moved here, and maybe not when I moved here, but at some point in my life, I started to have a lot of the same ideas or the same, I guess, concepts of how my life needed to be, similar to what she did. So growing up, I saw a lot of the struggles that my family went through, both here in the US and back in Colombia. A lot of them tied to money. So because of that, I've kind of been filled with economic fear, I guess I would call it. This fear of going back to living in poverty, because we were born in poverty. A lot of my family, especially in Colombia, still lives in poverty. So I always have this fear of not just me going back to that, but my wife, my children, my close relatives going back to that state of poverty because I know how difficult that life can be. And then being in the Marine Corps, I've been to countries that are very similar to Colombia, and I've seen soldiers of other countries and families from other countries living in those conditions. And that just kind of reinforces that fear that I have in me of going back to that life. However, so first of all, that has driven me to want to succeed more, to always try to do, something better, always have another goal in mind for what the next step in my life can be. And it's helped me tremendously. I feel like I'm very successful professionally, personally, because I'm so driven to succeed. The problem is that as my children have grown, my two boys, I have passed this pressure on to them. And for a long time, I didn't realize it. Really, it wasn't until the last couple of years, I would say the last 2 or 3 years, now that they're teenagers. One is a junior in high school, the other one's a freshman in high school. Now that they're teenagers, we've had conversations about a lot of things. And one of the things that they've revealed to me or shared with me is that I do put a lot of pressure on them. I pressure them to get really good grades in school. For a long time, I pressured them that they had to go to college. I'm constantly asking them questions about what kind of careers they want to have, what kind of families they want to have, what kind of men they hope to be when they grow up. And so, yes, these are important questions in my opinion, right? As a father, I'm concerned for their future. I want to make sure that they have a good, positive, successful life. The problem that I have found is that my approach has not always been very positive. My approach has seemed more as you should do this, this, and that in order to have a successful life. You can't have a successful life unless you hit all these wickets. And I'm realizing now that that's not the case. There's plenty of ways to have a successful life. But even more so, before I get into any of that, the most important thing that I've realized as I talk to my boys about their future and the lives that I hope that they have is that I want them to be happy. It's not about the career. You don't have to be a doctor, a lawyer, a military officer, any of that stuff to be successful. You don't have to marry and have children to be happy. There's different ways to be happy. There's different ways to succeed and excel in life. And for a long time, I had this I had this preconceived notion of what a successful life should be or could be. And a lot of that is tied to the American dream, right? So we talk about American dream, and in our minds, society thinks you got to have this big fancy house, you got to have the nice car, you got to have the beautiful wife or the handsome husband, perfectly behaved children that get straight A's in school. And yes, there's families that are doing that and they're perfectly happy, and that's great. But that's not the reality for most of us. For most of us, we have a lot of ups and downs, a lot of struggles, a lot of things that challenge us day in and day out. And so accepting that and learning that has helped me reflect a lot on the things that I expect of my children. For a long time, I wanted them to have this picture-perfect life. And they don't have a picture-perfect life. Partially because I can't give them everything they want or need. Partially because life is just life. Things aren't always fair. Things don't always work out the way we want them to. And my idea of perfect is not necessarily their idea of perfect. And that's the other part where I felt I connected with abuela Madrigal, is that she had this idea of how her descendants should behave, in part because she felt that they deserved or that they needed to earn these gifts that they were given. They had to honor the power that they were imbued with. And so they did that through service, kind of like how I do in the Marine Corps. But I realized afterwards that this is the burden that she carried. She carried this burden of her husband passing away, running away, and trying to build a little better life. But it was her burden to carry, but she was passing it on to her family, her descendants. And for a long time, I was doing the same thing. And honestly, a lot of times I feel like I'm still doing that. Even though I now acknowledge that this has been a problem, it is difficult to get away from. So hard to get away from. Because like I said, I want what's best for my boys. I want them to be happy. I want them to be successful. But now I'm trying to learn how to instill in them a sense of responsibility, a sense of ambition, all without stressing them out about making everything perfect, stressing them out about getting the straight A's and this and that and the other. And I don't know that I don't know how to do it. I don't know that I'm doing it right. I'm trying. I can tell you that I'm trying, but I don't know that I'm doing it right. Which is hard because, I'm making these videos about the American dream and I'm trying to teach my boys about the American dream. But it's just, how do I define it for them? How do I explain it to them without making them feel pressured to achieve this picture perfect life? So I don't know. I wish my life was like this Disney movie and, I could have a chat with somebody and at the end figure it out and everything's happily ever after, but that's not life, right? So Disney movies are great. Sometimes we connect with the characters on there. I know I definitely connected with Luisa as well. If you've seen the movie, you know who I'm talking about, and maybe I'll make another video about that character. But so we connect with them, but at the end of the day, Disney movies are not real life. Real life is messy, it's complicated, and it can really kick you sometimes when you're already down. It can just kick you and pound you even harder. And somehow you got to find the strength to keep moving on. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm trying to be better for my boys. I'm trying to figure out how to break free of these fears that I've internalized from my past, from growing up in poverty, from seeing violence firsthand and all these things. Even when I lived in the US, I migrated to New York and I saw things there that, were not ideal. So I'm trying to figure that out now. All right, guys, hopefully you got something out of my little analysis of the movie Encanto, or at least of one character of the movie Encanto. If you like what you saw, hit that like button. If you want to see more, hit that subscribe button so you know when I upload the next one. See you in the next video, guys. Deuces.